So we considered the UK on a 1 kilometre grid, and we looked at the impact of changing from current land use to either growing trees or to growing the perennial bar crops, and to look at which areas actually were good and which areas were bad. And obviously, what we find from that is you find that basically the amount of GGR you can get if you have high initial soil carbon for either crops or for forests is extremely low, and if not, maybe negative. In other words, you don't do any GGR. But if you do it on what are classical mineral soils that are currently used for either cropping or grassland, basically you get a slight increase in or stable soil carbon, and you get the benefit from growing the trees in the case of afforestation, and you get the negative emissions from BECCS when you're growing perennial bar crops. However, the other thing that we find is timing is important. Because basically, if you were to plant the whole of the UK with trees now in 2025, you would get very little GGR happening anywhere by 2050. By 2080, that's different, because then the trees are growing and they're absorbing carbon. If you want to get GGR immediately, you have to actually start BECCS now, and by using perennial bar crops, which gives you a full cycle and a high yield every year, basically. And if you can get your BECCS plant up and running as well, basically you will start to get GGR, effective GGR, as soon as you get those BECCS plants working and they are injecting CO2 into the ground. But as I said, timing is very, very important.